Tim Allen is undoubtedly most famous for his role as Tim the Toolman Taylor from the 90s sitcom Home Improvement, or the more recent sitcom Last Man Standing, but you may also have seen him in movies like The Santa Claus and Christmas with the Cranks. Although all of his movies were fairly successful, few people know how he used to be a drug dealer. After being caught with more than a half a kilo of cocaine, Tim Allen faced life imprisonment in 1978, so he decided to make a deal, which eventually led to fame and fortune. The family-friendly comic actor you know and love spent 2.5 years in a federal prison for drug trafficking. Of course, that deal was only feasible once he agreed to rat out nearly 24 other drug dealers. Almost every stand-up comedian has an interesting background and origin story of just what made them get up on stage and face the general population's collective fear of public speaking. Turns out that this unsuspecting sitcom dad might be a contender for the top of that list. Make sure to subscribe at some point during the video. Born in Denver, Colorado on June 13, 1953, Tim Allen's birth name was really Timothy Dick. He was teased about his last name, which provided him the chance to use humor as a defense mechanism. Allen's father, Gerald Dick, was killed in a car accident when the young boy was only 11 years old. Allen and his father were very close before the fatal crash. "I love my father more than anything," Allen later said. "He was a tall, strong, funny, and really engaging guy. I so enjoyed his company, his smell, sensibility, discipline, and sense of humor. All the fun stuff we did together. I couldn't wait for him to come home." As the family moved to Detroit, Michigan, his mother got remarried to her high school sweetheart, and the two of them raised Tim and his siblings as best they could before Tim left for Central Michigan University. He then transferred to Western Michigan, where he met his future ex-wife. He also began dealing drugs. 2 years after graduation in 1976, he was caught and faced serious time in prison for the first time in his life. According to CBS News, Tim Allen was arrested in the Kalamazoo Battle Creek International Airport on October 2, 1978. He was caught with more than 650 grams of cocaine. Unfortunately for Tim, state legislators had just passed a law that tied a life sentence to any conviction of selling 650 grams or more of cocaine. A few resources specify the details of Tim's arrest, but John F. Wojcikowic's book, Tim Allen, Overcoming Adversity, is by far the most substantial. The link to this book, if you want to read it, is down below in the description. As Wojcikovich explained, Tim was set up by an undercover officer named Michael Pfeiffer, who allegedly had been following the amateur drug dealer for months. It was Pfeiffer to whom Tim unwittingly gave the brown Adidas gym bag filled with cocaine to. Wojcikowicz explained that it was Tim's idea to choose the airport as he'd seen this sort of scene on television before. He put the bag in a locker and then walked up to Pfeiffer and handed him the keys. Once Pfeiffer opened the locker and its contents, Tim was swarmed. Instead of receiving his expected $42,000, Tim found himself in handcuffs. Facing life imprisonment, he pleaded guilty to drug trafficking and opted to provide the names of other dealers to authorities in exchange for a lighter sentence. That allowed him to be sentenced in a federal court rather than a state court, so the new Michigan law could be ignored. As the future star charmed the judge throughout the ordeal, he told Tim that he expected him to be a very successful comedian. Fortunately, in the comedy world, being a snitch isn't a deal breaker. In Michigan, meanwhile, Tim's information helped authorities indict 20 people in the drug trade and resulted in the conviction and sentencing of 4 major drug dealers. Tim still faced 3 to 7 years in prison, but ultimately only served 2 years and 4 months. He was released from the Federal Correction Institution in Sandstone, Minnesota on June 12, 1981. "When I went to jail, reality hit so hard that it took my breath away, took my stance away, took my strength away," Tim later told Esquire. "I was put in a holding cell with 20 other guys. We had the crap in the same crapper in the middle of the room, and I just told myself, I can't do this for 7.5 years. I want to kill myself." Amazingly, that's when the comic in him began to grow. Before long, he was able to make some of the toughest prisoners and even the guards laugh. "I was funny before that," he told the Los Angeles Daily News. "Prison grew me up. I was an adolescent that woke up too early when my father was killed, and I stayed at that angry adolescent level." Tim wasted no time exploring his talent upon his release, working at a Detroit ad agency by day and doing stand-up at the Comedy Castle by night. He found his persona on stage and soon booked commercials. A year after his daughter Catherine was born in 1989, he also booked a Showtime special. This caught the attention of Disney's Jeffrey Katzenberg and Michael Eisner, who offered him movie roles. Tim turned them down and eventually persuaded the studio to let him do his character as a part of a sitcom. And voila, Home Improvement premiered in 1991, with his drug dealing past behind him. The rest is history, from his successful run in a sitcom until 1999 to roles in classic movies like Toy Story. While his path in life might not be the most advisable route to take, the decisions he made, some more honorable than others, certainly had him come out on top.